There we go. Okay,
There we go.
we're
Now
definitely
we're
live
live.
this time. As you can see, I have no intro and I'm bad on timing. So here we are. We are here. You're here. Everybody's here. Thank you. Everybody's here.
Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome,
Yes.
Rob. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
Welcome, Rob. Welcome, Mike. We have games, movies, and comics. We have SGR. We have
GMC.
Bearded Gamer, and we have HDK.
SGR, what's up?
All right.
HDK,
Phoenix.
what's going on? Bearded Gamer.
Bearded.
How you doing?
Going on, brothers and sisters.
So we do not have Phoenix. She came in just to kind of give a like, but she's kind of wiped, so she said she was going to miss the stream. It's perfectly fine. She seems like she's been kind of having a bit of a time lately. So,
Well, she's got teenagers too, so
she does. So she's like more permanently exhausted than I am.
I got a teenager and a half and a 7-year-old. I'm with you.
I've got 2 teenagers at home also, and they're very, very teenager right now. So
there's Rab. That's the first time I've seen Rab chat since he came in here. What's up?
How's it going, Rab?
So it is good to see everybody. As you guys may know by the title, we're talking about basically nostalgia and selling us our childhoods tonight.
Bastards.
This is a pet peeve topic for Rob, as you can see. He was a little triggered, and this became a topic. So we're going to roll with this one. We all have some ideas. I thought we would talk about like some of the remakes that seemed unnecessary, some of the ones that we thought were good, some of the ones we might like to see done that haven't been done in a while, toys and products and things like that they're selling us. And of course, we're going to talk about limited run games, because if I don't, Rob will kill me off screen. He might kill me publicly on screen. You never know. This could be the highest
I need to have my
ever
beef
done.
laid bare for everyone to see it.
Rob is going to bury the hatchet in limited runs back. So welcome everybody to the show.
What's up, Panda?
We're so happy you guys are here.
What's going
there's
on?
Panda.
Panda.
So we got like 3 or 4 people in here. Hopefully more will trickle in. I'm not sure if everybody got the notice that we started early or not. I tried to do a notice. I know you did a notice, Mike.
I did.
It'll be better as I get out the notification when we do it more regularly, and I have it on the original thing.
I appreciate it, gentlemen.
I'm not too worried
No
about it.
problem.
Matter of fact, I think this works out a little bit better for me anyway.
We can
my
start
wife is-
earlier if you want. My wife goes to bed at 10.
Hey, I'm not going to care. The only thing I want to do is get some food in my stomach, so I'm not sitting here going, "Oh yeah, this is really good," the whole time I'm on stream.
Best part of you.
Best part of Nick is him stuffing his face.
Stuffing your face.
What is it's dinner time with Nick?
Rab said he was served. He is here at a court order. That's right. That's right. You're on jury duty. You're here under a full court order. That's how we roll here.
Yeah.
So let's go around the table a little bit. Let me know what you guys have kind of been into, what you did this weekend, and what you're kind of doing this week. Just kind of a heads up of like, what's going on. And we'll get started.
Mike, why don't you go first?
Ooh, let's see. So I have been, over the weekend, I did a couple of things, actually. I don't think I did anything. Saturday was just kind of like a day to just relax. But Sunday, I got back into some Sega stuff. I actually streamed Bug for the Saturn.
Oh my god!
I'm kind of sorry I missed that one. I got caught up doing like a thing.
I had a thing. I would have been there otherwise.
A thing. Well, you would have appreciated it, Nick, because I channeled my inner Geeks with Cash while I was raging at the game.
You screamed at the TV the entire time, and
oh my god!
Did you throw your controller at the TV?
I was close.
Were you really dramatic about it?
I was close.
I don't do that much anymore. I'm actually usually a lot more chill about that.
I was probably Revenge of Shinobi level.
Okay, Revenge of Shinobi was a particular case. That game is...
Yes, I
challenge you guys to play that game and not rage.
Well, I challenge you to now play Bug and don't rage.
I don't have a Saturn to play it on, and I can't get it to emulate well, unfortunately.
It doesn't. It's never... I don't think it's... Unless the Poly Mega does it real well, and this is something that we'll know when OEB Pete gets to his Saturn emulation, but other than that, I mean, having real hardware is awesome, and minus some humming when the screen is really bright. The HyperKit HDMI cable is pretty solid for the Saturn.
Yeah.
But it's funny because this leads into talking about nostalgia. I somehow remember Bug being a much better game than I see it now. And it's not for the gameplay itself. It's for the fact that there is no saving, very few checkpoints, and loose controls that make you want to just die.
God, I thought all that went out with like the PS1 era. I thought that was the last era that they did that nonsense. I guess this is close to that era, though, isn't it? The Saturn was pretty close to that, or the PS2.
Well, Saturn was right there with the PS1.
Yeah, so that's the right timeline.
I mean, memory card. I mean, that's when you had to have it's when you had to have a memory card, or on the Saturn a memory. Well, no, the Saturn had internal RAM, but I don't understand. I don't understand how we ever got along. This game didn't even have passwords. It was you had to play it in one sitting, or
even the NES had sense to give you passwords for the most part.
Yeah, this game needed passwords.
Well, for the most part, there's some games that don't. I mean, there are those exceptions, obviously.
Ah, my goodness. So I'm gonna need like a cheat code or something to get back into it. Otherwise, I think it's gonna sit on the shelf forever.
Game Genie was a pain in the ass on CD systems too.
I know. But so there was that, and I think next weekend I'm going to do Bug 2, which was a much better game, and where they fixed a lot of this stuff and had a much better soundtrack. And then that night, which I've been playing pretty consistently to try to get it beat, is Psychonauts 2 on the Xbox.
That's what I've been seeing you.
I've been trying to check out a lot of those at least as much as I can. That's a really neat game that I want to play.
I tell you, there are some people that have thought about that game in Game of the Year talk. And I didn't understand it until I started to really get into it. And now I understand it. It is a legitimate Game of the Year contender.
I want to play that one. I need to get into my Ratchet and Clank copy because that's another one that
I need to play Ratchet and Clank as well.
That's a solid contender. And I do want to pick up Deathloop. I just don't know what platform I want to pick it up on. My first inclination is to get it on PC, but they put De Novo on there, which means it runs like trash, because anytime you put De Novo on anything, which is an anti-piracy software, it makes everything run like trash. That's all it seems to do. And then everybody complains, and then they rip it out of there, and then everybody's happy again. They did it with Doom. And they did it with Doom Eternal. And I'm like, you guys have got to stop putting this on your games. You've been burned twice on this, Bethesda. Just stop. But, whatever. They don't really seem to learn. So... So we have two rather funny comments here. Geeks with high blood pressure.
Very true.
And then Bandasub pretty much rage quit his old computer after it crashed so many times and literally threw it out the window.
In San Francisco. That's fantastic. He does not see me rolling on the floor laughing.
Yes, you're totally fake.
I'm exposed. Here. You know what? I am. Hold on. I'll type it in the chat. I am sickle. SICL. Spinning in my chair, laughing. There you go, Panda Sub.
I feel like this went very silly, very fast. Rob, save us. What'd you do?
That's what this week. This week I've been playing a lot of GameCube games. Trying to burn through as much of my GameCube library as I can.
You're telling me
revisiting some old favorites, and trying to try out some new games that I haven't actually touched. So that's what I've been doing.
What pray tell games?
I think I was already doing this last time we talked also. So got revisited both the Metroid Prime games and both the Pikmin games. Mario Kart, and then compared it to Crash Team Racing. I'm kind of the opinion that the Crash racing games are better than the Mario Kart game. Just my hot take.
feel like we need to burn you at the stake now.
Yeah, that's fine. You can do that if you want. I just think that the Crash, what was it on the PlayStation? Was that the Crash Team Racing on the PlayStation, and then on the game Crash Nitro Kart. Crash Nitro Kart is the one on the GameCube.
I never got into the Crash games, and I never started the Sonic ones. I've heard pretty good things about both.
The Sonic one,
I just haven't played them.
I liked what I played of the second Sonic All Stars Racing. The Transformed, I think was what it was.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good soundtrack. Also, I was right now. I'm trying to muscle through the Resident Evil remake. So that's what I've been doing.
There's more remakes than that. What I spent my weekend working on is I've been working on a historical piece for Atari. I want to work on a piece that's the rise and fall of Atari.
Nice.
Which is going to take quite a while. I imagine this one's probably going to be 20 plus minutes by the time I get it all recorded. So since I quickly realized I wasn't going to be able to get that done this week, I sort of pivoted because I wanted one other video to go with the next Contra thing going out this week. And started burning through... hey, Rob, is Nick Beatty for being a guest on the show? What? Oh, Rab. He said Rob. And no, I have not banned Rab. We have intentionally kept this really small, and anybody that comes on gets discussed on like the panel as a whole before we have them on, and then we approach them with a specific topic. We brought one person on impromptu, and that was Saggy, and I kind of got some flack from that not because she came on, because it was impromptu. So that's something that was a lesson learned, that we need to have a discussion and have a game plan going into those. I am totally open for having Rab on anytime Rab wants to come on. He has a topic he wants to talk about. I'm more than happy to have him on if he feels he wants to come on.
Yes, you need to fill out the requisite application.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
In triplicate.
Yeah, we need at least 4 references, a blood sample, and your firstborn.
Yes.
Seems fair. We all had to do it to start this. So.
So, like I said, I pivoted pretty quick and picked up a game that was on Game Pass called Skatebird.
Oh yeah.
So I will have a review done on that on Friday. I'm not going to say too much more about it, other than it had some really good points and it had some really, really low points on it. It's kind of getting a little bombed, and there's some reasons for that I'm going to go into. So hopefully that'll be out by Friday, and then another thing will be out on Wednesday, so it'll give me like 4 pieces of content this week. I'm kind of trying to expand the channel out a little bit because I'm realizing that my channel is kind of stagnant with the audience that I have. So I kind of want to do a few things that might reach out to other people, and then I'll hopefully find other stuff they like on the channel, because I'd like to see the channel grow a little bit. I'm not looking to make tons and tons of money off of this, but I'd like to have more subs than I have. So trying to find ways of doing that are things that I actually enjoy doing, so I don't hate myself for doing it, because that's the wrong way to do it.
Gossip channels always get the clicks, though. If you want to do that.
I'm not going to do gossip. I'm not going to do drama. I get pulled into that on Twitter all the time. My fucking Twitter feed exploded the last couple of days with utter BS nonsense, and I'm not going to bring into this stream. If we want to do a stream on that, Mike, I mean, you can go into that nonsense, but
I don't want to do a stream on that.
Want to do that.
No, I really don't. I really don't. I said what I had to say today.
I had no idea what we're talking about.
And you're
I don't even want to.
All I'm going to say is it's Kotaku and a console that you don't really want to talk about. So
yeah, trash article written by trash writer on trash video game blog, and that's it. I said what I had to say today, and that's it.
I had them followed, and then I unfollowed them because at one point they had a couple of good articles, and I was using them as a source for game news because I'd go to multiple sources for things, including Reddit, and that was one of the sources. But they've just gotten less and less.
I wish I knew you earlier. I could have talked you out of that.
So it's one of those things. So let's go ahead and get started on the topic. Rob, do you
All
want
right.
to start with limited run games, or do you want to talk about games that we kind of want to come back, or how do you guys want to organize this? Because we got a couple thoughts, just a one topic tonight. I figured it's a broad enough topic that this is probably a good one for us to kind of carry on and get the group involved in.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of has their own ideas. I'll just kind of go into what my whole thought process was. It's basically a great time to be a geek, especially if you got cash, some disposable income, because rock on. Because there's no shortage of companies that are happy to repackage your childhood for you. And what's up, Sandwich?
How's it going, Sandwich?
Hey, Sandwich.
Sorry, bringing people up as they pop in and say hi so we can stop and say hi. Go on.
More than happy to provide you with the merchandise that you would have loved to have as a kid. It's just, well,
or did have
my whole wardrobe is basically this idea.
Or did have as a kid and sold at some point.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I did kind of touch on a little bit on this last week with the retro bit game series collector's editions that they do, which is great because the games that they are putting in these collections, these aren't easy to find. You won't find R-Type 3 very easily. You won't find Metal Storm. And they give you some extra stuff in these packages to kind of justify the fact that you are paying $60 for a ROM, essentially, that you could just find for free elsewhere without having to pay for it. There is a flip side to this, though. I mean, there are... Nick, you got that picture that I shared with you?
I do. Let me pull this up, and then I will add it to the stream.
Here's my beef with retro.
I don't know if I can zoom in on this or
look
not.
Look how tiny it is. Okay,
know,
this is my
it's
beef
super
with limited
tiny.
run games. So somehow they got the license to some limited Star Wars games. Not the best Star Wars games, I should say. So that's if you whip out your magnifying glass, you'll see the Game Boy Star Wars game.
I got it. It's still a little janky because it doesn't blow up well, but
so are the games though, so it works. So what they did was they took these readily available games and they put them on a vintage style Star Wars action figure card back, and then sold it to you as a collector's item. These games cost this shit right. I mean, point the right straight. There we go. That crap right there. A lot more than you would pay for the same games off of eBay if you're actually buying the official versions. And boy, did that it! I don't know why. Without that stuck in my craw, and I went on an ill-advised crusade against against this whole promotion on. I wish I hadn't. I'm not very proud of it, but I was right.
So we're going to put you on the spot here. How?
I want to hear this.
How lit did the community get on you? Because most people
no one listened to me.
Are in the opposite situation where they love limited run games. Like I know people that almost worship limited run games. They adore that site.
It was all my banner waving and doom crying fell on deaf ears, of course. I mean, if you want that stuff, no one's going to convince you otherwise. So, and honestly, who am I to say that someone can't spend their money on that? I think it's stupid. And I did point out several times, hey, if you want that, go to eBay right now. Here's a link for $10 less than what you'd be paying for this. So come on. But no, you got to have that special color cartridge with the card back, and it's not even a good game. They're okay. It's not. We aren't talking about R-Type 3. We aren't talking about Metal Storm. We are talking about a game that was released in limited numbers that are, $300, $400, $500, even $1,000 for some of these games. And so it's almost a service for companies like Retrobit to give you these games, or at least some version of it, at a heavily discounted price.
Well,
with
that
some
also
extra
brings up another point too
of
Konami doing limited runs of things like Castlevania games too. Like they'll bring out like a new Castlevania game, like in the Metroidvania style games. They don't have that long of a run. Like Order of Ecclesia goes for like a stupid amount.
Yeah, that's
okay. That
well,
ran for a limited time.
That
That was forced limitation by them. Maybe because Castlevania just doesn't sell all that
Yeah,
amazingly
it's
well.
they were probably seeing diminishing returns on the Metroidvania games
Yeah.
on the DS. So, but I mean, at some point, you, the consumer, have to take responsibility for not picking it up when you have the chance. I did. But,
Yeah, I managed to get a copy of it. I still have it.
Everyone's weird.
Matter of
I am
fact, Retro
particular about-
Rivals, I think, was offering like $200 for a copy of it or something like that. Pointer, they at least wanted to discuss price, and I'm like, no, when I ended off, I haven't really finished it yet. I need to get back to it. I don't know, and I kind of like having it.
Yeah, there's certain things I would much rather have than the money. So, no, it's a good game, and I love the Castlevania DS games. But I mean that is a fair point. It is also kind of a dick move on certain companies for releasing these games in such limited runs.
Yeah.
And you got to wonder, what is the idea to drive up the app? I don't know what the point is. I mean, it doesn't really seem to benefit anyone other than resellers.
Yeah, for the most part.
I guess we get people excited, like that Mario All Stars disc on the
Yeah,
Wii.
that didn't make any sense either. They ran that for like 5 or 6 months, and then they pulled it. There's plenty of copies out there because people bought like tons of extra copies.
Yeah,
And now they can't move them, and there's still some of the ones that were there are still sitting on the shelf because I think people vastly overestimated the appeal of a lot of the 3D Mario games outside of like Galaxy. Because
Well, I'm
you got
talking
Mario
about-
64, which I have a lot of nostalgia for, but you go back and play it, and the camera's kind of janky. And Mario Sunshine was never one of the more popular 3D Mario games.
but I'm talking about the original Super Mario All Stars that they put on the Wii disc, and then that was kind of a burned with the white hotness for a while, and then it lost its luster. And I think people also figured it would be a lot more desirable than it was. But I mean, that was a hard to find game for a while.
It really was.
Which was essentially
pre-ordered
just
one.
a port of the Super Nintendo game.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they give you a higher resolution on Mario 64, so it ran at 1080p.
I'm still talking about the Super Nintendo. I'm talking about the Super Mario All Stars on the Wii, which was the Super Nintendo versions of the first three Mario Brothers games plus Lost Levels. I'm not sure how the All Stars 2 package went, or 3D All Stars.
I'm not sure. I was never like the hugest fan of All Stars. I mean, it had some games I hadn't played before, and then it added a little bit extra there. But I mean, I kind of digress. I mean, it just wasn't. I think I had the SNES one, but it wasn't like my favorite cart by any means. I think I had a bunch of other stuff I was playing around that time.
So basically, my thought was, because my house is full of stuff that I bought after being an adult, that was specifically made for me as an adult version of an '80s kid. And they said, "Hey, Robert, here's Rocksteady, just like what you would have loved to have as a kid. Only now it's so much better. Look at that, look at that."
Yeah.
And this was kind of an expensive figure by my standards. There's a lot of
prefer actual systems, not just the ROMs. Yeah, it would be nice to see, like, if you were going to do a limited run, doing a limited run of, like, say, the original hardware again. I think is like a smart thing because you put in, like, say, a pre-order, and like what Rap's saying here, they can print closer to demand. Of course, it's a buy now or fear of missing out thing, obviously. But if you do that with the hardware, then people can get a hold of the hardware.
Yeah, but you also need licensing and correct specs, and it's like I see what he's saying. How many working Genesis consoles do you think could be around in 20 years? We need replacement productions, but that's what companies are trying to do now with their emulation, in that you started out with who makes the flashbacks? At Games. So you have all the Games consoles, and they all suck. Majesco at one point tried to make a Genesis console when Sega decided to give it up. That was the Genesis 3. So I mean, I don't think and now the Polymega is trying to do it with their cartridge, with their modular cartridge. And so I mean, it's hard to get actual hardware that's fully licensed and fully, Sega's not just going to let some company just make a Genesis and slap their name on it.
They were about to with that games.
No. What I mean
as
is,
it goes scrambles. And hi, by the way, Dr. Campbell.
Not without their permission or licensing, and ways to help
from the dead.
at games. Hey, brother, back.
We had a lot of people pop in, by the way.
Yeah. I just, look at 1-Up, right? Look at Arcade 1-Up. You want to talk about a racket. And at first I was like really excited because, hey, I could never buy an arcade game. So why not get Arcade 1-Up? And then you start seeing now they're milking things so much. Now they're coming out with single game arcade cabinets for $600, $700, $800. Who wants to buy Pong for $800?
There was another one called I think At Games is making those cabinets now, and there's a couple others too that make them now.
Yeah, At Games has the Legends cabinet, which is which I know Rich Haywood had. And shout out to Retro Rich. I hope everything is okay. I haven't heard from him in a couple of weeks. I hope he's doing all right. It's family. But like, I was looking across the Arcade 1-Up site while we're talking about this, and like the Street Fighter 2 big blue arcade machine, which is nothing more than Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, doesn't have multiple games, doesn't have $5.99. Now they're selling for $350 a Polaroid at-home instant photo booth. I mean, come on. This one I kind of find ridiculous too. You're finally gonna give us The Simpsons, but it's only The Simpsons. It's only
it's $700. That's more than you paid for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones that came with 2 games.
Yeah. Or for $700 you can get the Mortal Kombat head-to-head arcade table.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nick, I just sent you a picture.
Okay. Did you send it in Discord? You sent it?
Yeah, I sent it in Discord. Okay. Which is something we already brought up. By the way, hey, Dr. Game Love, and hey, Scramble. Sorry I missed you.
Yeah.
See, we talked about those.
Yeah, we talked about.
And I made fun of them then.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
I mean, this is the.
I'm gonna pull this up and we'll share it. Yeah. This is okay. This is a total.
This is the epitome. This is the epitome.
This is the low bar.
This is what we talked. So this is what we talked about. We talked about this last show.
Talked about this with the handheld games.
Yeah.
And I'll be on. I'm not gonna lie. I almost bought the Transformers one just because it's Transformers.
So, I was just about to bring up the Game & Watch that we talked about last show, like the fact that they're trying to bring that back.
Okay, so here's that magic line where I think everyone's got that line where, it's too far, and the Game & Watch ones, that's still on my side of the line. Like I want those. I don't want the Tiger things.
See, the main reason I want the Game & Watch ones is because I like the Game & Watch ones, and they're like $50 and usually get 2 to 4 games on them. So for like 4 games, it's pushing it. I agree, but they're still kind of fun, and I like having.
Yeah,
and
when I
want to get a stand for them so I can put them around because I think they look nice as little blocks.
So that's right. So I can buy cheap. I could probably buy cheap Game & Watches that are broken and put them around my wall on the wall. If I want to do that, if I want to play Super Mario Brothers, I got my Razer Kishi. I have this. I don't need a Game & Watch for that. And that's where part of my problem is.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I still buy into that one in particular, even though I do agree it's on that line, right? But it's enough on that line that I'm kind of like, I really like Game & Watch. I never had that many of them back in the day. I don't really want to refurb one. This comes with 2 Zelda games I already know I like, and then it has like a modified version of like one of the Game & Watch ones with Link in it, and that's kind of neat.
They're very nicely built, like the Mario one anyway. A beautiful screen, by the way. That was like, it's a very nice little piece of kit. The just having 2 of the oldest Mario games is kind of a, for $50, is it kind of a, what for me was a tough spell. And I honestly did fall into the FOMO mindset where I saw it, and I just had this feeling like, if I only kind of want it, I might as well get it now, because if it goes crazy, I'm going to be really frustrated if I can only find it for like $150, the cheapest in the aftermarket. So
right, and the Zelda one, I thought the Mario one was going to do that, but I think the Zelda one stands a much better chance. Now, if they manufacture them like they did the Mario one, I think they'll probably be okay, and you'll see them in stores, because I can still find the Mario one.
Yeah, there's still a stack of them at Target.
Yeah,
last time I was there anyway.
Yeah,
and I would love to see that. Like if like, do you mean like an old style Game Boy, Dr. Game Love? Or
I think that's what he's talking about. I've got an emulator that's built around the Game Boy, called the Pi Boy, and which I've done a review on, and that's actually a really nice handheld system. I used it when Nicole was in the hospital last time. I did some like Metroid Zero Mission and stuff like that on there. I had a really good time with it.
Going back to what I was just saying about this, I got to admit, Libretto did a fantastic job with their emulation cores for Android, and this is an older phone. This is a Note 9, and between that and the Kishi, man, I got a really good handheld that plays everything. And then I've even got a Dreamcast emulator on here that actually is pretty accurate.
Dreamcast emulation's really good now. You don't need much to run it. A Pi 3 will run it. A Pi 4 runs it even better.
Yep. This Android runs it almost perfectly.
Rad makes a good point here. His wife bought the Little Mermaid Tiger handle for their 5-year-old. She loves it.
Well, sure,
it was a total impulse buy, and it's right in that sweet spot of that range, because they're only like $15, I think, still, which is what they were back in the day. They were somewhere around $10, $15, which is why every kid I knew had like multiple of them. Right? It was an easy birthday gift for, like, the kids in the video games, but you don't know what he has.
Yeah, you're running late to the birthday party. You stop by at the gas station. It's right there.
And you just pick one up and you go. Right.
The Tiger isn't a stupid company. They did their research. They know that these things still sell too. You got to remember where the markets for some of these things are. It's not us. And so, we look at those things. We look at those Tiger handhelds in a different way than, as you guys are both saying, soccer mom Sandy looks at them. Where, I'm just going to get this for my kids. There's some that
appeal to me, but there's others that don't, but they have the market, right? And by the way, hi, Max.
Hey, Max.
So, we have a lot of them. And Lady Foxfire makes a good point here, too. We all have our favorite thing we cross the line to pay extra for, but they're definitely milking it since it became popular.
Yeah.
And that goes for, and that brings another example of stuff that I want to get up. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll return shortly.
Okay. Hey.
Your entire room is a fraud.
Yeah, I thought you were actually in the game.
Yes. How are you not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Now, speaking of, I do have some visual aids. So, this is I think, a fair example. The old NES. I feel like this might be on the starting point of when the maybe the slightly higher quality emulation boxes.
Yes.
Yes. And that this was infuriating, because they did release this in a very limited quantity, and only the resellers got it.
And then said, "Screw you, we're not making it anymore."
And yeah, that. I mean, I wanted one so bad, even though I have all the games.
Hello.
Hey, Nicole. Oh, what are you gonna do?
Nicole,
My
is
channel
taking
now!
over. He's
My wife
taking
is taking
over.
over. She now owns my stream.
Yeah.
What? Don't go.
That's sweet.
That is. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Now, see, I don't consider that like milking nostalgia. That's a T-shirt. Yeah, I
Yes.
could say yeah.
It's a hockey. They're hockey jerseys.
They're
But
hockey
they're based
jerseys,
off selling you nostalgic products.
but
and
it's
IPs.
not. Yeah, yes, but
There's
it's not selling you something you had as a child.
There's something less cynical about those kind of products where it's like there's more of like an understanding, like you could tell whoever had the idea for those jerseys probably freaking would have killed for those as a kid. So they was like, I bet there's people like me, and we're gonna make a bunch of these and we're gonna try to sell them. Whereas there's just some other ones where you just smell and feel and taste the greed in the decision behind putting a freaking ROM of an NES game on a Star Wars action figure card back. So that's
that's not made by Kenner.
Well, and that also brings up the
can you bring up Dr. Game Love's last comment, because I do want to address that.
the Game Boy SP one?
Nope, not that
Which
one. The
one?
very last one he put. Oh, hold on. I'm using Top Chat. I'm sorry. I hate Top Chat. No, it's still the last one. The very last one he said.
This one?
N64 Mini.
Yes. So the 64 Mini I could see possibly, but you have to remember once you got to CD based games, each Dreamcast game is a gig. Each Saturn game is hundreds of megs. It's very different than putting together a NES Mini with a 25K or 64K ROM. You need more specs. You need more space. A Saturn or Dreamcast Mini would cost a lot more than a SNES Mini.
I think you could do an N64 one. The cart sizes weren't quite.
I think you could do an
If
N64.
they did the PlayStation one, then you
But remember two things. The PlayStation, you're right. They did the PlayStation Mini. The PlayStation Mini was more expensive, right?
It was like $100, right?
Yeah, I think it was like somewhere between 90 and 100. I don't remember exactly.
It's 100 now. I'm taking a look at the difference in the games, because one of the other things is, and again, the NES Mini came with how many games? Like
50? No,
I don't
20,
think it came with
25,
50. It was like
26.
25 or 30.
No, because I
But it
remember
had free space, because I know a lot of people modded it, and then they
Yeah,
added
a lot of
I
people
think a big
modded it.
thing was the Genesis Mini came with 52 games, which I believe was exactly double what the SNES Mini came up with.
Yeah.
So I think there were 30 games on the NES Mini, but someone has got to know the answer to that.
Yeah, right around the time that you were at like
30,
PS1.
thank you, Rap.
Okay, there we go. Right about the time that you were at the PS1, game sizes were getting larger, yes, but they were still like, I want to say like 250 meg to like 500 meg. They weren't quite a gig yet. So
Maybe
they do
that.
eat a lot more space. N64 ones were actually quite small
yes,
compared to PS1 games.
The Mini also was horrible, and Lady Foxfire was just alluding to it. The
And I
PlayStation
heard
Mini
that
had
too.
a lot of problems.
Yeah, I heard that the PS1 Mini was
was
garbage as
horrible.
well. And I heard the TurboGrafx one was garbage as well.
Yeah,
Did
and
you
the
hear that?
TurboGrafx. Yeah, I've heard that.
That's too bad.
And the thing is that with the Saturn, we just talked about the only company that really has a shot at emulating it well is
Would be
Polymega.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
Polymega,
that's
and
true.
that's a
True.
$500 system now. It emulates other stuff, but if you can't emulate that thing well to begin with, what kind of Mini are you going to get for the Saturn? And then the Dreamcast games were all 1 gig or higher. So once you get could you do the Saturn if you did the PlayStation? Yeah, maybe, but I think once you get past that, you're gonna run into some problems. The N64 I think would be your best shot. And I'd actually, depending, my issue with the minis is the amount of games on them. Like So
See, I would like to see the Saturn preserved, and I'd like to see something that would play the Saturn that's not necessarily a Saturn, because getting a hold of a Saturn that works, it's kind of hard. Getting a hold of Saturn games,
knock on wood, mine still works.
They're very expensive. What's up, one more quarter? And I never picked it up. I never picked it up back in the day. It was $400. I was pretty burnt out on Sega at the time. They had thrown out tons of add-ons like the 32X, the converter, the Sega CD. They weren't really supporting any of them really well at the time. I'm like, I'm kind of done here. It took until the Dreamcast to get my attention again. And I don't regret jumping in on the Dreamcast. I do regret a little bit not jumping in on the Saturn, but at the time I just didn't see the value in it. And then I found out Shining Force 3 was on it that I didn't even know existed until like 15, 20 years later.
Some of the biggest issue with Saturn right now in trying to collect for it is there you go.
I'm a sucker for that kind of crap.
There you go. You got the Amiga Mini coming. But the biggest issue right now that you have with the Saturn is it's become highly collectible. I mean, I've got 5 games in my collection that are all over $500.
Yeah,
and growing.
That's why if I could emulate it, I would totally emulate it, because I'm not going to pay those prices.
No,
I'm just not. I mean, I may have money, but I'm not going to dump it on hardware that's going to flake out on me. Because the Saturn wasn't that well built in the first place.
No, it was not. But knock on wood, again, knock on wood. The Saturn that I have, which is modded, by the way, I showed you guys my modded Saturn, right? I think I showed it on one of the first shows.
My memory is garbage. Rob, do you remember?
If Mike remembers, I remember.
Okay.
It has a switch. I'll go get it. It's not. I get to pull my nostalgia.
It's not like you're gonna like twisting your arm here. I mean, you pulling out something and showing it's not hard.
I do it every week.
I know.
Whip it out and show us.
You love it too. And here's the thing, Dr. Gamelum. The hardware's going bye-bye, but so are the discs. Cards last much longer than CDs. And CDs are going to have problems sooner. They have a shorter half-life than discs. And then there's Mazin.
Hey, Mazin Power. So this is my original launch Saturn. It works beautifully, and it has on the side, I got this modded at launch. That switch up for US, down for import. Nice. And it works, and to this day, I mean, I was just streaming Bug. This thing is rock freaking solid. And in fact, this is something I can't believe that Sega screwed this up with the Dreamcast. And I don't speak ill of the Dreamcast much at all.
Yeah,
or lightly, because second favorite system of all time to me next to the Sega CD. But the CMOS battery in the Saturn was an actual battery you could replace, and they totally got rid of that with the Dreamcast.
Did they?
Yes.
That's why the Dreamcast always beeps when you had powered on.
Yeah, you have to, because yes, and then when that battery died, you were screwed unless you were good enough to be able to solder a new replaceable battery on yourself. So.
Wow, what a dumb boneheaded move.
Yeah.
Sega does that.
See, I kind of like this idea too. Minis with separately sold packs of games, USB with an SD tag card.
That would be
the arcade model, but other players could do that. And then there's Omega. Hey, Omega.
Omega.
Hey, Omega.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea. I think that's
why I didn't get that's why I didn't get the Genesis Mini. As much of a Genesis freak as I was, the games.
Really? I thought that the Genesis Mini, of the 3 main mini consoles, I thought the Genesis Mini had the best library.
It did, but it was still highly lacking.
I think there's a couple places that do this, Dr. Gamelove. I don't think there's anything like official, but I know there are people that have set up sites where they have pulled the ROMs off of these and they have uploaded them just for preservation. Now, I don't think they're available for like the general public to consume, obviously because of licensing rights and
Yeah.
issues
Nintendo
like
likes to
that.
shut those sites down.
Yeah, Nintendo shuts those things down with a pretty heavy fervor. I do know a few that are still kind of up, but they're getting harder and harder to find. But they are at least up there. The sad part is you can pull the ROMs and you can preserve them, but if nobody can play them, then what's the point, right? If you can't show them and play them, then what do you do, right? And I think that's part of the problem. And that's where some of the game remakes come in. That's actually kind of a good segue. We've had a big resurgence in game remakes. And some of them are good. Some of them I feel like have been overkill. Like Last of Us came out on like 3 different generations.
Yeah.
GTA is working on its 4th friggin' generation.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to be on the PlayStation 13. I guarantee it. It's ridiculous. The game will never die.
That game is coming out with a patch for the Series X and PS5, so they can continue to sell it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's not even a remake. That's just a game that will not die.
It just will not die.
Well,
they've already done a resolution upgrade for it.
I kind of feel like they did the same thing with San Andreas. Seemed like that was.
Well, they're remaking that.
Yeah, they're doing Resident Evil 4. They did Resident Evil 2. They did Resident Evil 3. And those have been a little bit longer since they had a remake. So those were slightly more justifiable. Like KOTOR is a good example, one that I think is going to be good if they don't dink with the story. If they just kind of remake it, maybe add some quality of life improvements. I think that'll be a good one.
Now, Nick, you should, just for my own clarification, are you talking about remakes? Or are you talking about like remasters, like Resident Evil 4? Resident Evil 4 has been on every goddamn system since the GameCube. Capcom has not let a system go by. That's not Xbox anyway. Without having some port of Resident Evil 4 on it, and now they're going to be remaking it from the ground up as an essentially a new game, which I think is separate from the remake discussion.
Yeah. I guess you can put it that. Do we want to classify that in as like say collections, or collections, remakes, remasters?
I would say
what do you define as a remake and what do you define as a remaster? Because they kind of fit in the same vein to me. Because if you're doing a remake, like Diablo 2 is a remake, but it's also a remaster. They rebuilt the game from the ground up, but they left everything inside the game the same.
See, that to me is a
Or the Shadow of the Colossus remake on the PS4, where they rebuilt the game, but it's pretty much essentially the exact same game you played on the PS2.
Well, and Asper Media just announced the remake of KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. It's such a skirted line because on the other hand, Remedy announced that they're doing Alan Wake Remastered. So, who really
played and loved that game to begin with? I'm always confused by the Alan Wake.
It was okay.
Fan thing. I played it. It was and I put it down.
Alan Wake.
Like I never got sucked into it.
Alan Wake for me was the best. That was Remedy at its best. And then I really liked Quantum Break, and then I don't know what happened with Control.
I never got into that series because I know in some limited respect, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and Control are all semi-linked. Like they all sort of reference each other.
Reference each other, but they're not. They're not totally. They're not. They're only. The references are just there to be cool references. There really isn't any. There's no story continuity between them at all.
Well, to Dr. Gamelove's point, though, I mean, would you say that a from the ground up remake is more acceptable than just a polished version of the same game you got from the previous? Like if they bring Resident Evil 4 to the PS5, that's not obviously the new remake they're working on. It's going to be the same game we played on the GameCube, just more and more HD. Got to make it more HDer than the last version. That's pretty much it. Well, they'll still charge you $20 for it.
Well, didn't they do a lot of quality of life and some story changes on like 2? And I thought they did some of that on 3.
the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes were completely new games, essentially. I mean, it was, the broad strokes were there, but I mean, it was essentially a new game in both those cases, for better or worse.
What constitutes a new game? Just the fact that they redid. I mean, they had to, unless they like. So let's take KOTOR for a second, because they're calling that a remake versus Alan Wake being a remaster. Are they building I think if you're building a new engine, and that's going to fundamentally change, say, the physics, right? Even if you're not necessarily changing assets, but you're changing your gameplay engine, I could see that.
In that regard, the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes were completely different. I mean,
I would say Final Fantasy VII as well. That remake,
yes,
it completely changes the game, because you got 40 hours, 50 hours of gameplay, which was, I mean, if you just went through the story, that was the main part of all of Final Fantasy VII, and that's only part 1 of like 3. So they vastly expanded on the game. Did that.
And that's, I mean, I've always understood, like, I'm not getting the Alan Wake remaster because I still have it. I have it in Game Pass. I don't need it to be remastered to be good for me. I tend to stray away from remasters because it's the same exact game, just as Rab says, in HD. They take the assets, which the assets are always drawn in a higher resolution anyway and then compressed. So, there's little to no work that gets done in a remaster.
I feel like this is a bigger problem with, like, say, GTA 5 and Last of Us, because they didn't change anything other than up the resolution on those. And then they packaged them and sold them again.
I think,
whereas when you're talking the Resident Evil ones, like we're talking about Final Fantasy VII, potentially KOTOR, which I've heard they're going to do some changes to the story, which makes me very nervous. I hope they don't do that. Then that's something different.
Right. Now, the other thing too about where's my train of thought going here? When you, I lost it. Shit. I literally lost. I was reading Rab's correct thing, and I lost my
Quick,
thought.
We got to wind up Mike again.
Yes. No, I mean, I don't get in on remasters because I find that it's a waste of money. I do, however, understand kind of the reason behind them. There are, it's the same reason people are remaking movies, because they feel like there's a whole generation of people who never played the original. And so, like with KOTOR, going back to that, there's a whole generation of people who have never played Knights of the Old Republic because they were too young, or they weren't into video games at that time, or they didn't have an Xbox, and this is their chance to play it. Same with Alan Wake. The argument for Alan Wake remaster is that it's also now going to be on the PlayStation, where if you were just a PlayStation gamer, you've got that for the first time. Now my point, now I remember my thought. Last of Us, the one big difference they did when they remastered The Last of Us is if you had a PS Pro, you could play it in 60 frames per second. So they did up the frame rate. However,
and that kind of leads into Dr. Gamelove's point too. Is like Dark Souls on the 360 was 15 frames, and Blighttown Dark Souls Remastered was 60 frames.
Right, but here's where here's where Microsoft kind of jumped everybody's shark. If they could, if they wanted to, if From Software would work with them on it, they could take Dark Souls on the 360 and make it backward compatible on the Xbox Series X, for example, or Series S, and give it an FPS boost, which is what they've done with many, many games. One that comes,
and sometimes they've upped the fidelity on them too, and they're not really charged much for that.
So one of the games that struck me that I ended up going through and playing all the way, because to me it was a totally different game, was Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs and it was the Sleeping Dogs remaster that came out that I did buy because I didn't buy it. I had it on Game Pass. So Sleeping Dogs remaster came out on Game Pass. I started playing it on the Xbox One X, which looked nice. But when the Series X came out and it bumped the resolution to 60 frames per second, or the frame rate to 60 frames per second, with no need to rebuy the game, that was like a game changer. Yeah. So Dark Souls, I get it. I totally get it. The remaster at 60 frames per second is a huge deal. But is it enough to buy it if I could get it, if I could take my existing?
If you could take your existing,
that's
the key thing.
And that's it.
And if you can't, and you want to play that again instead of suffering through it at 15 frames a second, if you're a huge Dark Souls fan, I can kind of see it. It's the same way with some of these collections. Now, the collections are a little bit of a slippery slope because they're basically using ROMs, the old games, and they're packaging to you and they're selling them to you for like $60.
Right.
Capcom was notoriously bad about this with Mega Man. They put like 1 through 5 on one. They put like 6 through something. Rob, I'm betting you know all these.
I do.
And then they got the X series, and it's freaking ridiculous.
Anniversary series.
What are you gonna do? They put all the classic Mega Man games on one compilation. Then they did the X series.
They didn't do one compilation. There were like 2 for like the Mega Man series, just the straight Mega Man series. I think there was like 2. There was one.
There was. Do I have any of that crap around here? What was it?
One of them had like 6 games, and the other one had like 4 or something like that. Like they chinched you on that one, but they still charged you 60.
So I think they put 9, 10.
Thanks, John. I love this game. It's great.
Hey, John. Mega Man's a funny one. Mega Man's a funny one.
I'm fine with that.
But, there's Mega Man, and then there's Street Fighter, and there's all those, and then Castlevania that they did, which also went into a limited run for a while.
But to be fair, when has Capcom not been cash grabbing?
Well, I mean, some of these I'm talking about are Konami as well.
They did Contra. They did a Contra series. Konami did.
Honestly, I'm just happy to get anything out of Konami these days. So if all it is just
I
compilation,
guess that's fair.
Whatever. As long as it's not Dance Dance Revolution.
Because they annoy me.
But it's funny you brought up. So the one Mega Man game I have is Mega Man 8 Anniversary, right? Wasn't that a remake as well on the Saturn?
I thought that one only came out on the Wii originally. Didn't they finally re-release it?
It was PS1. The first time I played it was actually on the Saturn.
Yeah.
I think they're released concurrently. But I mean, that was Mega Man X4, Mega Man 8. I think they're both released on some Mega Man anniversary. 25th, 30th?
I don't know.
Something-eth.
All I know is it's worth
Capcom is very money grabbing. I could go into a whole tirade of Street Fighter V and the debacle that is that game that I have double dipped on personally. So they have definitely gotten my money on that one, even though I don't think it's that great of a game. I still double dipped on it. So I'm not one to talk about falling into Capcom's traps. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I just still do it.
I bought every version of Resident Evil 4 that they've come out with.
I never dove too deep into the Resident Evil series, and everybody laughs at me because they're like, because I played Code Veronica, and they're like, that's one of the best ones, and I'm like, I could not stand the tank controls, I could not stand the difficulty curve. I was that guy that didn't have enough ammo to be the guy at the end of the first disc, so I went through the entire first disc a second time with just the knife, barely ever using anything other than the knife, and then as I wasted the guy with very little ammo, finally, I lost like all my weapons and items, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. This game can stuff it. I'm done with Resident Evil now.
I will admit that I bought the Castlevania collection.
And I have thought about that.
It's a good collection.
It is a good collection. So see, that was a very good collection. It was not expensive. And honestly, I didn't play any of those originally. The only game that I really had was Super Castlevania because I was a Genesis guy. So for me, and this is why I understand the idea of the Alan Wake and the KOTOR stuff, is because there's a whole section of people that never got to play it. So for me, going back and playing those, is cool. but the price was right too. I mean, it wasn't terribly expensive. And
So I guess part of this discussion needs to be like, which of these are okay and which of these are not okay? Like, which of these are really gouging you for nostalgia, I guess, to start that discussion? And which of these do you guys think that are kind of like okay? I mean, GTA 5 is obviously like a milking thing. Last of Us feels like a milking thing. But then we start to kind of hit gray areas like the Ultimates. Some people might find spending $50 on the Ultimates to be a bit too much for something that's just a slightly better version of what you had in your childhood. And other people wouldn't. Like, I buy into the Masterpiece Transformers, and those go for a lot.
Well, for example, the Castlevania compilation included Kid Dracula, right? Omega,
and I think that was a Famicom only
and that
release.
it was,
Yes.
and they
never released in English.
An English version of it. So I mean that was a very good carrot to throw in with the rest of the games. And I believe it's been a while since I actually looked at the contents of that compilation. I think it was more or less a complete
It was
Castlevania anthology up to the 32-bit generation.
Yep, it was Castlevania, Castlevania 2, 3, 4, Adventure, and Adventure 2 on the Game Boy, because it included those, and Bloodlines, and then Kid Dracula.
I was just talking about that Dr. Game Love with someone else. And that's that'll be a great collection, I think, as long as they do it right, of course. It would be great if they just did a complete Metroidvania compilation, if they could somehow work the DS games in there too. I don't
honestly, I'd like to see the DS and the 3DS ones in there, because one of the things that annoys me about some of the 3DS ones is the stylus, all the stylus stuff you have to do in some of those is maddening. I'd like to see that pulled out.
Yeah,
like with Dawn Souls on the first Metroidvania on the DS. There was some touchscreen stuff that was just there just because it was. It's you got to have some kind of tap thing on the DS, and they just kind of shoehorned a lot of stuff. But I feel like retroactively, some of that, probably all of that stuff, could be taken out if they just put it on a disc. All that second screen stuff, I think, was so superfluous that could be easily just kind of relegated to
on that particular game. I agree with you. There were some games I thought the stylus was pretty key and a really cool part of the game. I thought it was a tacked on thing for the Castlevania series to do the seal thing. And even though I've got my DS, I don't want to, like, it would be like being able to give me, like, say, Spirit Tracks or God, what was the first one? The Mask of the Phantasm or whatever it was. Not Mask of the Phantasm. It was the one with the tower, right? Those both.
I don't know why I'm drawing up. Like, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, all those used like the mic, and especially Spirit Tracks drove me crazy because I couldn't play some of the songs on the DS. And I'd love to complete that game, but the fourth dungeon I could never open up. I spent like 30, 40 minutes one night almost hyperventilating trying to play this one song that I could never play, and I couldn't open it up. And I finally just gave up on the game entirely because I'm like, well, I can't open this up. Like, what's the point of selling me a game that I have to play this one musical thing that I'm not capable of playing on my DS? So now you've ruined the game for me, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see a version of that without that mechanic, maybe with like button combinations, or just remove it, because that's one of the things that Zelda's always done that I've never been a huge fan of. I don't want to play music. I'm not a musician. Stop making me play music.
But
I don't
Link
want to do it.
So that's the thing.
Yeah. So let me also ask you guys about so Sega's not immune to this. So Sega has the vintage collections. And I readily admit to buying both the Streets of Rage and the Toe Jam and Earl collections. But one of the things that they did with both of those was take the multiplayer and put it over Xbox Live. So I was actually able to play Toe Jam and Earl with somebody over
I remember
Xbox
you telling
Live.
me about that.
Yeah. So, those are things that, and it was only $9.99. Streets of Rage was only $9.99, and it had all three Streets of Rage, and they were all online playable. There's
I'm waiting on. I was gonna. There it is. I was about to say I was waiting on the comment to come up so I could click on it because I've got a slight delay between the pop out chat and what's coming up in the StreamYards.
Oh, you're watching me? Sonic CD's best game ever made. Best Sonic game ever made.
I'm waiting for the rage comment. I'm waiting to hear John scream from his actual house. And I agree, Ninja Gaiden actually worked pretty good.
I really
still
liked
had a tough time with the game, but it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
I need to pull up the chat on my phone.
Now,
I really like the Ninja Gaiden DS game. That was I thought really well done. But that was one where I can't imagine a way to easily actually pull that out of the DS and put it on any other system. It was entirely touch control, and plus you had to draw the glyphs in. And
see, Wind Waker I didn't mind as much. The baton thing didn't bother me quite as much. Twilight Princess, where you had to howl, I found that kind of annoying. I made it through it. I just found it tedious and didn't really enjoy it all that well.
I didn't like Twilight Princess that much. I barely played more than an hour.
I thought Twilight Princess outstayed its welcome. It took me 50 plus hours to beat that game. And I was ready for it to be done, and rarely was I ever just really ready for a Zelda game to be done when I would get done with it. That was one of them. I'm like, oh my god. You could have cut some of this out and I would have been happy.
I feel like I put in a solid attempt of maybe 2 or 3 hours, and I felt like the game hadn't even started yet. So I was like, you know what? I'll just play Smash Brothers instead. I got bored with that game.
Ooh. Am I the only one who did not realize Fighting Vipers was...
I didn't know Fighting Vipers was making a comeback.
That
was going to bring me to another topic. If they're going to keep doing remakes, which they are, let's be honest, they're going to do remakes and remasters. Which ones would you like to see that we haven't seen yet? And would you like to see them from 8-bit and 16-bit reimagined? Or would you rather see stuff from PS1, PS2, and on? I'd say PS1, PS2 era games, maybe some 360 in there too, right around in that zone. Especially PS1 era, like N64 and all those with remasters. I'm sure people would lose their mind if they did, say, a GoldenEye remaster for the Switch.
I think it's always fun to see a game that you loved back as a kid kind of reimagined in a different, the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes. I mean, those are essentially completely different games, and yet still very familiar. So if you loved Resident Evil 2 back in the day, then there's the core game is still there. You can just see it in a completely different way. Just same kind of like the original Super Nintendo Mario All-Stars, where they are essentially selling you the same game again, but with just enough to make it a new experience. So I'm fine with that. Them, as long as it doesn't replace the old game, I'm fine with them doing that as much as they want.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes down to it, PS1, PS2 era, the 360, all those are kind of aging, and they're kind of hard to hook up, and they're kind of hard to get your hands on. They're getting kind of expensive, and a lot of the early 3D rendering and the mechanics of how you maneuver are so bad. They would benefit the most from, say, a remaster, right?
Yeah, on RetroRoots thought. I mean, I think a lot of those. I think the 32-bit generation has aged just terribly. For one thing, I mean, it's just,
and some of the 64-bit era has too. N64 in particular is aged.
Yeah, that's
very bad.
Yes, I mean the PlayStation games, a lot of Saturn games, and 64 games especially. I think a lot of those actually do deserve a Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot got that, and I think Spyro did too. And I don't.
Both Crash Bandicoot and Spyro did
received as well as they wanted it to be. I rushed out and I got a Crash Bandicoot disc, and I was frustrated that actually it played the same way. I was actually thinking about this when you were talking about the you were talking about Bug earlier, of having to go back and revisit those times, those archaic days when you actually needed
by the way,
a memory card, and they kept the old style way of saving in the Crash Bandicoot games. I'm so used to autosaves that I played through, I want to say, a world or two of Crash Bandicoot, without realizing that I'm not saving.
That you're not saving.
Because I didn't go to the dedicated save spot. And so when I turned the game off and went back to it, I was like, I gotta start over again. I sure don't. Gotta start over again and put on a different game. So.
And Back from the Dead makes some good ones here. Skies of Arcadia, I'd love to see a remake. If you give me Code Veronica without tank controls, I might actually enjoy that game. I hated the tank controls. Resident Evil 1 or even Resident Evil 0, I think, which wasn't that GameCube exclusive? Yeah.
Resident Evil 1, the remake, was GameCube exclusive for a minute. Same with Resident Evil 4. But they, I think that's been... I think Capcom has re-released the remake as often as they've re-released Resident Evil 4, I think.
I think Smash TV would make a great party game. I would love to see Smash TV come back. And Medieval got a remaster. There's so many games I've missed in the last couple of years. It's ridiculous. I have an amazing backlog. And somebody mentioned Cruis'n Blast. There it is. And I want to pick that one up. That one came out just recently, like a couple of days ago. And I want to pick that up. It does look like a lot of fun. And multiple people were telling me not to sleep on that game, that it's a lot of fun. And the races only last like 1.5 to 3 minutes. So it seems like a very good, quick pick up and play kind of game, which is great because there's times where I just want a game like that. Matter of fact, I've been leaning more towards the indie game scene because it's a little more respectful of my time than the AAA scene lately. I have a harder time bringing myself and keeping myself focused on a 40-plus hour game these days. Whereas like something like Contra, I can do multiple runs on, which is an older game. Seems like the indie games, I can get in, I can make some progress, and I can put it down. Mm-hmm. Something like Demon Souls, if I spend an hour, I feel like I don't get anywhere, right? I need to spend more time than that. Returnal takes like 2.5 hours to do a run. It's like ridiculous. So I feel like the attention span or the time that they need, particularly for like, especially in my case, an aging audience that has less time, it's a lot of time to ask for. Mm-hmm. And so that's a problem that I have with it. It's kind of why I heavily looked at Deathloop before I even considered buying it. And I'm more tempted to buy it now because it's not like Returnal. You can kind of save and you can stay in sections for a period of time. And they've hit this kind of like middle ground. And I'm like, thank God I might consider buying this game because if it's another Returnal, I can't do that time-wise.
I agree with 21 Sandwich here.
I'm behind on chat right now. I'm trying to keep up. That's why I like retro games. It's a great experience in a short amount of time, and I absolutely agree with that. That's why I've gone more and more retro on my channel. The Contra series has been great for that because I can go in and in an hour, I can do 3 or 4 runs, unless I'm doing really good on a run, and it's just taking time. Because if I do like a really good run on Contra, it might take over 20 minutes, right? So I only get 2 or 3 runs in an hour.
Let me ask you guys a question. And this is something that, again, I'm guilty of this, and I'm like, we were just talking about Fighting Vipers, right? $4.99. Yeah. I bought it while we were talking because I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta have that, right? The more I'm looking across what's out there, I'm seeing individual games for $5 to $7 to $8. And if I really wanted to, I could get like Ghost Pilots or a Neo Geo for $8. Ghost Pilots was awesome. But I thought to myself too, what to you guys would be more acceptable? Buying these single games at $5 a piece or getting like a Midway Arcade Treasures for $20 to $25.
Every time I see Midway, I get angry. Midway's AI were notoriously like crappy.
Yeah, but I loved Midway. I mean, this game when it came out was probably $50. You can get it now for $20, sometimes cheaper. And I want to say that I got Midway Arcade Treasures 3 in one of my retro game boxes. This game, which was $50 when it came out new, it has a ton of games. I think I did a stream on it. If I didn't, I'm going to.
I've seen a couple people do this. Sai's done one, or Sai did a couple before he turned his channel down on some of the collections. Yeah. And there might be 30, 40, 50 games on there.
Like this has 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 26 games. As much as a NES Mini, and some games that just, I was like, wow. You know, both Joust, Gauntlet, both Defenders, Smash TV, 720, Marble Madness. I mean, I was like, yeah, I got to have this.
See, I would like to see some stuff like what Rap's talking about here. Total reimaginings of really old games in new ways. Like Mountain King is a descent horror. Marble Madness is a track building and arena battler. And that actually sounds great, like a Marble Madness kind of thing. And Super Monkey Ball, I think, has kind of been a spiritual successor in some ways to Marble Madness.
A little bit.
In its own little way. It's got a few other different mechanics in it, but and there is a marble track building game on Steam. I may pick that up and actually just build some tracks, but but it's not the same thing as like Marble Madness. You let the marbles go and they kind of do their thing. You don't control the marble. You just make the track and you watch them race, right? But there's a couple of games now. We're talking about some of these old ones like Mutant League Football. Game was talking about Narc. Some of those would be great to like reimagine. You could even do them in 16-bit or 32-bit.
Mutant League was redone. There's been a new Mutant League.
Is there?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
I totally missed that. Yep. And damn well, it's like I use save states in all my Nintendo Switch online games. I'd never beat anyone until any of the Super Mario Bros. Games without them. Played him as a kid and got my ass beat. And honestly, that's been one of the nicest, I guess, quality of life features to be added into some of these games, is they've made them more accessible to a wider range of people that don't want to sit down and do like what I'm doing with Contra, which is just to spend hours and hours and hours practicing it, so I could finally learn to play it the way I thought I should have played it when I was a kid, right?
Now go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Rob.
I just wanted to answer your question, because I've been thinking about this entire time. I would honestly, I would, if we're talking about an older game that is going to be emulation anyway, I'd much rather have especially if it's like a physical disc, or a cartridge, God willing. I'd rather have a compilation for essentially the same price. I'm all about value, so I mean, if I can, I will spend $10 on 12 games before I spend $5 on one. So, that's just good economics.
No, it is. And I think one of the best of the modern ones that came out in the last generation, Rare did one called Rare Replay.
Yeah, I've actually got that on my Xbox One. I downloaded.
Man, not only did they bring all of their old stuff from like the ZX Spectrum and Battletoads from the arcade and Battletoads from the NES, but they did remake some of their games.
I love Rev's comment.
Yes. There was like a remake of Jetpack, right? Jetpack Refueled. There were some remasters in there as well as old games, and I think that was only $30. This was back when I was doing game reviews on the channel, and man, there were just all kinds of great parts of that. I find those worth it. I think the only reason I really bought Fighting Vipers for $4.99 was because I don't think that's ever coming in a compilation. Like, there's some games that aren't going to come in a compilation. That's
like I've kind of given up on like Rival Schools ever getting on a platform that I would play.
Yeah.
Fighting Vipers is another one that's kind of like that. Like it had its heyday, and then now nobody really thinks about it. Tekken survived, Mortal Kombat survived, Street Fighter survived. Well, you've got the core ones that really kind of made it. Virtual Fighters made a little bit of a comeback. I don't know if they're going to take that anywhere, but the remake of 5 is actually pretty good.
Yep. Well, of all of Sega's fighting games, Virtua Fighter, that was that's their tentpole. So Fighting Vipers was built off of that engine. So was Last Bronx. So those games, the appeal to Fighting Vipers was you could play as the Daytona car. I mean, that was really
I remember seeing footage of that and going, why?
The other thing about Fighting Vipers was you had armor, which was a new twist on the Virtual Fighter engine, where you broke their armor. So there was that. It was different. Last Bronx was kind of a, believe it or not, Last Bronx, which was another Sega fighting game, was kind of a precursor to what Namco did with Soul Calibur, because it used weapons. So, once again, Sega innovates and everybody else catches up. But yeah, the Omega Ace Gaming, man, he's hitting my Fighting Vipers soft spot. I mean, it was batshit crazy and it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of good comments between him and Dan White too. Omega is saying that save states also help pro players so they can perfect hard parts, so everyone wins in save states. I know some people that would disagree with that because they're hardcore purists. I am not that person. I'm very much play the game that you enjoy the game.
I wish I had save states on bug.
In order to say that you've kind of mastered the game, you need to be able to beat it the way it was kind of intended. But practicing and playing it just to be able to get through it, to see the content and to enjoy it, I have no problem at all with save states.
There are some times where I just want to see the end of the game.
Exactly, and I'm absolutely with you on that. I just want to see the game through. I'm not looking to take
this to GDQ. I just want to see the ending. Right. I'll probably only play it the one time. Whatever.
Yeah, and Dan White makes a good point just in that same vein. It lets me enjoy the games a lot more. I could love the challenge where they get getting too frustrated and having it feel like work. Because you can always go back to like a previous state and go, okay, well, let's try that again. And I think Thumb Brothers does a really good job. And he's not in there tonight because he's got like work and stuff tomorrow. He hit me up about that earlier. But he uses them a lot on his live streams. Mm-hmm. He'll go back certain frames and he'll do it from different perspectives, trying to take different paths and things like that and trying to figure out either what's more optimal, or where a lot of beginning players start to make their mistakes, where intermediate players make their mistakes, and where advanced players make mistakes. So there's a lot of like really cool things you can do with a new kind of modern way of being able to play these old favorite games.
Wait, hold on. GMC is, I think we got a breaking news here.
Breaking news.
What the hell?
What did I miss? Samus is a hot woman.
Why are we talking about anything else other than this right now?
What? Mind blown. Mind blown. What's up, Games? How you doing, by the way?
And next thing you know, we're going to find out wrestling is fake.
Shut your mouth. Don't have 4 hours to sit down and struggle with a game that I can't save. Save states are like blood for a 36-year-old dad with 3 kids and responsibilities. The way I handle that is I take them in sections, because a lot of the games that are designed like that can be finished in 30 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll do a couple of runs, like I'm doing with the Contra series. And that's kind of why I wanted to do that series. It's learning the game the way the game was originally intended in short burst segments. So since I've been able to get further in the game, I've made it like an hour that I sit down and play on average. Sometimes it's only 30 minutes. Sometimes it's only 40 minutes. I try to do it like an hour. That way I can get 2 or 3 runs in. Have that data so I can use that for like my footage the next week. So people can kind of see, go through those stages, do the learning process, and the run, each individual run doesn't take that long. It's not like doing Returnal where it's going to take you like 2.5 hours in a run. You're looking at like 20, 25 minutes, right? Once you're expedient on a game, I think the game can be beaten in under, 20 minutes, Rob? Like Contra?
Yes. Sure.
Like, once you're good.
I was focusing on something else.
No, you're fine. But that's kind of why I'm doing that particular series, is so people can, like, people that go, oh, I could never do that. Well, yeah, you can. You just practice a little bit here and there, right?
It's about, and that's the thing. Like, if all I want to do is beat the game, then I have, the
spoiler alert. God damn it, week ruined.
Little minis do have like little save functions. These are great. This is how I beat a lot of these harder games for the first time. Like Super Ghosts and Ghost, I beat that the first time I started playing it, just because I was able to power through it with the save states, and that was a great way to actually see the whole game.
Right.
If I like it, I could always go back and try it for real, which I probably will do at some point. But I mean, it's, if all you want to do is just casually spend an afternoon seeing through a game, these save states are great.
Yes.
You could actually feel like you somewhat accomplished something.
Well, and say like you want to do, like, especially for people that want to do stuff like retro reviews too. Not just people don't play it with
Yeah.
it. Like you want to do like say a retro review, and you don't really care if you play through it the right way. You want to be able to like go through the game so you can talk intelligently about each level and this that, and the other. That's a great way of you being able to do that and do that kind of thing. So it's good for like various different content creators and stuff like that. So I feel like they're an okay thing for everybody around. And Dan, I'll go with you on the Tanuki suit. I don't particularly like the white Tanuki suit. I always felt insulted when they gave it to me when I died a couple of times. But it's great for people, especially younger kids that aren't used to the, and I'll say moderate difficulty level of 3D Marios these days, because none of them are like ultra hard. That don't have that sense of 3D yet to play the game, to allow them to be able to play the game and keep up and have a good time. And at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to be doing, is having a good time, right? It's a video game. That's what it's for. I feel like we've digressed from the topic, but it's been a fun digression.
I don't know that we had, because it's nostalgia. We're talking nostalgia.
Yeah.
And here I am looking up nostalgia. I've broken the fourth wall. There are Xbox One games, Xbox One builds of NES games. Like Double Dragon.
We've now ruined wrestling. We've ruined Metroid. Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Double Dragon. I could get Double Dragon. And Arc Systems makes all these old games.
Dude, Arc Systems, their fighting games are amazing. They move great. They're gorgeous. They're amazing.
Yeah, I'm like,
I kind of really want to sit down like and have a weekend day where I just get a group of people together and we just beat the crap out of each other on these things and start to get good at them.
Yeah,
because I have them and I don't play them and I want to play them.
but I click on Double Dragon, and it says the explosive NES original game. I'm like, no, I want the arcade version. All right, I digress.
So I don't want to keep everybody I'm a lazy video game nerd. I don't want to keep everybody super late tonight. Mike, I know you're crashing. I know we've been at this for like an hour and a half tonight. Coming in under 2 hours is not a terrible thing.
No.
Do we have anything else that we really want to cover? Do we want to start to do a wrap up? Does anybody else have anything? There any questions from the chat? Anything like that we want to cover tonight that we haven't covered that maybe you guys want to talk about in this kind of same vein? Let's keep it kind of like nostalgia based and accessibility and all that moving forward and that kind of thing.
I feel like we got it. I think.
Yeah.
For as much legs as we got out of the conversation, because I just had the basic idea of I want to talk shit about the limited run games, and then somehow we made a whole topic out of it. That I
knew we could, man. We have made full range topics out of less.
Yes. Need I remind you, gentlemen, we spent 90 minutes talking about Toe Jam and Earl.
We did. We absolutely did. We spent 90 minutes talking about Toe Jam and Earl.
And loved every minute of it.
Hey. I did my review. I did not say it was a bad game. I just said it was not for me.
That's okay.
It just would have been a lot more satisfying if you'd actually had your thoughts for that review when we did this.
When we did it. I know. I'm terrible. We need to start doing those games and make it a longer stint when we do them so that we have more time to kind of sink into them.
We did talk about next.
We talked about doing
Other
that.
M.
Yeah, we did talk about digging into Other M. I don't know when we want to do that one. And I like the idea of doing that because that lets us kind of throw it out to the main chat of whoever's here. And then maybe do like, say, a follow-up video saying, hey, we're going to be doing this in like a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about it. Anybody that wants to kind of play through the game and participate and stuff like that, participate more actively in the chat, what you liked, what you didn't like, that kind of thing. I think it would be a really, really interesting
because when we did our when we did our Toe Jam and Earl, 21 Sandwich actually started playing the game around the same time I was. So
how's it going, speaking?
He and I were kind of talking about the game as we were working our way through it. I think his patience ran out long before mine did, though. See, it just worked for me. So
I struggled with the RNG. Like I struggled really hard with the RNG in the game. I had a lot of really, really, really bad runs, and I had one solid run. And since then, I have not had another solid run anytime I've gone back and tried it. So that tells me it's very erratic. And part of it is you being prepared for not having good items. And part of it is just you getting screwed
Well, see, bad RNG just makes it all the sweeter when you actually have like a good run where
No, it
where
doesn't.
you realize.
No, it doesn't.
For me, it does. I'm a
doesn't.
glass is half full kind of guy. Sort of.
Oh man.
There are games where I agree when you finally get through a part, you're like, yes, I finally did it. I feel like I accomplished something. When I finished Toe Jam and Earl, I'm like, son of a God, I got lucky.
The hell did I just play?
Like, how did I get that lucky?
All right.
But yeah, no, we need to do that. Maybe next time that we come in, maybe we'll start other M. It'd be cool to have an idea if we want to do that. If we want to do a different game, that's fine. But I think doing those once every blue moon is a really cool idea. I know my October is going to be pretty busy because I've been really delayed on starting what I wanted to be another themed month, which I'm kind of regretting now because I'm at the mid to tail end of September and I'm not far enough along on anything to really want to do it. So are there any last thoughts? Anything you guys haven't coming out this week? Anything you're doing this week that you want to tell people about before we leave? By the way, the links to all these channels are in the description. You should totally check them out if you're not already subscribed.
I better be.
No, I will. I will say that
Guild.
nostalgia is awesome, though.
Yes,
I mean,
it can be.
For all my negativity and griping about limited run games, my house is full of stuff. It's like the '80s threw up in my house. My wife is the same way. Movies, toys, video games.
Oh, I'm the same way.
Any modern company wants to make it, I will find room in my wallet for it.
Nice. Nice.
That's it, Mezen. I'm judging you in Klingon.
Klingon.
Oh, thanks, man.
I appreciate that, Omega. I have a
when we
lot
get
of
when we
fun
get
with
the
this
dancing
podcast.
girls in here, I think our popularity.
Yeah. Everything will like smooth out if we can get some dancing girls in here.
There you go.
Until we get cancel cultured. You know what'll happen. It has been a blast talking to everybody. My final thoughts on this are I love all this crap. I'm surrounded by all this crap, both new and old versions of it. I have statues of it. I have figures of it. I have more modern versions of the things that I know and love. I have a few of the old ones that I've gone back and picked up, and I kind of love it all. They're selling my childhood, and I'm, unquestionably just going, shut up and take my money.
Here's another good example here, the new Skeletor figure.
I keep meaning to pick those up.
Awesome.
Oh my god,
I can't wait till
I
find Merman.
They have knee joints and arm joints and everything like they did before. Oh, it's so good.
Very posable.
They are. They look amazing. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Nostalgia's a pretty good drug, but in moderation, like anything else. It depends on how much you want to pay for that next for that
moderation.
Yeah, depends on how much you want to pay for that fix. But getting the right. Again, I just spent $5 on Fighting Viper, so who am I to talk?
Hey, it was only $5, man. That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. No, but no, it's great if you. And I don't begrudge anybody who wants to spend the money on that much nostalgia. If you want to pay, out the nose for a replica Gen 1 Transformer, go for it. When somebody starts remaking mask vehicles, I'm all in.
I would love to see that happen, actually. I paid a pretty penny for this guy, but he looks just like he did in the cartoon.
Yes, he
does.
And
he's got a really fun, complex transformation, and I absolutely love it. So, and he comes with all sorts of cool accessories and stuff like that. I don't really regret this purchase at all, but this is kind of my jam. And this is the kind of stuff that I kind of want to get back on the channel again, kind of slowly, because it takes a long time to do, and nobody watches them. So,
I love the first video I saw of yours was your not cliff jumper.
That's a really good figure. I like that one.
I wanted it real bad too.
I think they're doing a re-release of that. Actually, I'll see if I can find it. If I do, I'll send you a link. He wasn't that bad in the scheme of things for that figure.
Cliff Jumper was one of my favorites, man. He was, And I love that in the original, as you guys know, Casey Kasem was the voice of Cliff Jumper.
Yeah,
and I always know him as Cliff Jumper now.
Yeah,
whenever I hear, because I play him on the radio still.
Cliff Jumper was Bumblebee as a thug. That's how I remember Cliff Jumper. Jumper, like Bumblebee always wanted to run away from the fight. Cliff Jumper wanted to go in there and throw hands. That's what. But they were the same car. It's just Cliff Jumper was red. They were both Volkswagen Beetles.
Actually, they weren't.
Cliff Jumper was originally a Beetle.
Well, when they made the figure, they did a repaint of Bumblebee, and they called it Cliff Jumper. In the cartoon, he wasn't a VW Beetle. If you watch it, he's like a small little like two-door coupe sedan thing.
I got to go back and look at the original because when I had the figure,
the toy definitely was a repaint of Bumblebee.
Absolutely, was a repaint of Bumblebee.
Yes, it was. Absolutely was. The cartoon was not that, however.
I have to go back and look now because now I'm my mind
questioning everything.
Hang on.
I'm questioning everything. I need to go back and look, but we don't have time. It's 12:05. I really need to get to bed. I'm gonna look this up tomorrow because I'm.
There you go, Mike.
There we go. Oh, look at that. But that's not the cartoon version, though.
That's not the cartoon version.
Well, this is basically what the cartoon character was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
This is a remake of the Gen 1 figure. But that's closer to like what he was. But he was a tiny little car. I'll find a better picture of it and I'll send it to you later. I'm not going to keep you guys here all night on this, but yeah, he wasn't.
Thanks for ruining my childhood.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for staying with us. We are going to call it a night. Please like, subscribe. Especially to these two guys. They are amazing. Without them, this show would be trash. I'm just here being a talking head and letting them do cool things. So please follow these guys. Like their channels, subscribe to their channels, check out all their awesome content. They all do amazing content, and so do most of these people in the chat. If you guys aren't subscribed to each other in the chat, you probably really should be. I don't think we have anybody in the chat tonight that doesn't do phenomenal content. So definitely check each other's channels out, and have a good night and happy gaming.
Hey, on gamers.
Night, everyone.